The boy tugged at his mother's sleeve with quiet urgency. "Mom, I'm still hungry." Aisha glanced down at her 6-year-old son, Omar, then back at the small paper bag in her hands. Inside were fries she'd bought with the last of her cash. She had already given him most of them, insisting she wasn't hungry, even though her stomach had been aching all afternoon. They were sitting on a bench outside a busy downtown food court. Business people rushed past in pressed suits, laughing into phones, carrying coffee that cost more than Aisha had spent on dinner. Omar watched a man sitting 2 seats away. The man wore a tailored charcoal coat and polished shoes. A laptop bag rested beside him. He was scrolling through his phone, waiting for what looked like a rideshare. In front of him sat a large tray, burger untouched, fries still warm, drink sweating with condensation. Omar hesitated, then whispered, "Mom, can we ask him?" Aisha's chest tightened. "No, sweetheart," she murmured. "We don't bother people." "But he has lots," Omar said softly, nodding toward the tray. "I just want a few fries." Aisha closed her eyes for a moment. She hated this part of motherhood, the part where dignity fought hunger, the part where she had to choose between pride and her child's empty stomach. She took a slow breath, stood, and approached the man. "Excuse me, sir." He looked up, slightly startled. "Yes." Her voice trembled despite her effort to keep it steady. "I'm so sorry to disturb you. My son, he's still hungry. I was wondering," she swallowed. "Can we share your fries, sir?" For a second, his expression froze. Then his eyes drifted past her to Omar, who stood clutching his small jacket, trying to look brave. The man set his phone down. "Of course," he said quietly. "Please have all of them." Aisha blinked. "All? No, just a few." "I insist." He slid the tray toward her. "Sit, both of you." Aisha hesitated, then nodded gratefully. "Thank you truly." Omar's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Thank you, mister." The man smiled faintly. They sat together in silence as Omar happily ate. Aisha tried to refuse the burger, but the man pushed it gently toward her. "You look like you haven't eaten either." Her eyes burned. "Thank you," she whispered. After a moment he asked, "Long day?" She gave a tired laugh. "Long life." He smiled at that. They talked quietly while Omar focused on the fries. Aisha explained she worked part-time at a tailoring shop. Rent had gone up. Her husband had passed 3 years earlier. Some weeks were easier than others. The man listened without interruption. No pity in his eyes, just attention. "What's your name?" he asked Omar. "Omar." "I'm Daniel." Omar nodded seriously. "Thank you for the fries, Daniel." Daniel chuckled. "You're welcome, buddy." When his ride arrived, Daniel stood, picked up his bag, and pulled out a card. "If you ever need anything," he said, handing it to Aisha, "anything at all." She glanced at it, then shook her head. "That's kind, but I couldn't." "Please." Something in his voice made her accept. "Thank you," she said again. Daniel nodded once, gave Omar a small wave, and walked away. Aisha watched him disappear into traffic, never imagining she had just shared dinner with one of the wealthiest men in the city. 3 days later, Aisha lost her job. The shop owner said business was slow. She packed up her sewing kit, thanked him politely, and stepped into the street feeling hollow. That night, she stared at Daniel's card for a long time before finally dialing. It rang twice. "Daniel speaking." Her throat tightened. "Hi, you probably don't remember me. I'm Aisha from the food court with my son." There was a pause. "I remember." Her voice broke. "I'm so sorry to call. I wouldn't if I had any other option. I just lost my job and Where are you right now?" She blinked. "I'm at home." "Send me your address." She hesitated. "I don't want charity." Daniel's voice was gentle but firm. "This isn't charity, this is help." 30 minutes later, a black SUV pulled up outside her small apartment building. A man in a suit stepped out and handed her an envelope. Inside was enough money to cover 3 months of rent. Her knees nearly buckled. She called Daniel immediately. "This is too much," she cried. "I can't accept this." "You already did," he said softly, "and you're not alone anymore." Over the next few weeks, things changed rapidly. Daniel helped her enroll in a small business program. He arranged interviews. He connected her with a local cooperative that supported single parents. But he never showed up in person. Until one afternoon. Aisha was volunteering at a community center when she saw him walk in, sleeves rolled up, carrying boxes of donated supplies. She froze. "You didn't tell me you were coming." He shrugged. "I wanted to see how you were doing." They sat afterward while Omar colored nearby. "You didn't have to do all this," Aisha said quietly. Daniel looked at her. "You didn't have to ask a stranger for fries." She met his gaze. "That was the hardest thing I've ever done." He nodded slowly. "My mother used to do the same," he said. "She raised me alone, too. Some nights she'd pretend she'd already eaten so I could have more." Aisha felt tears rise again. "That's why I knew," he continued, "the moment you spoke." She frowned slightly. "Knew what?" "That you weren't asking for yourself." A year later, Aisha stood inside a bright new storefront, adjusting dresses on display racks. Her own tailoring studio. Not fancy, not huge. But hers. Omar ran between shelves, laughing. Daniel leaned against the doorway, hands in his pockets. "You did this," Aisha said. He shook his head. "No, I opened a door, you walked through it." She smiled. That evening, they closed the shop together and walked to the same food court where they had first met. Aisha bought 3 meals this time. They sat on the same bench. Omar pushed a carton of fries toward Daniel. "Can we share your fries, sir?" he said playfully. Daniel laughed. "Only if you let me share yours too." They clinked cartons like glasses. Aisha watched her son, laughing with a man who had once been a stranger. She thought about how close she had been to giving up that day. How a single question, asked with shaking hands, had changed everything. Daniel looked at her. "You know," he said quietly, "people think wealth is money." She raised an eyebrow. "And it's not." He nodded toward Omar. "It's moments like this." Aisha smiled, heart full. Sometimes miracles don't arrive loudly. Sometimes they come in the shape of warm fries, a kind stranger, and the courage to ask.